the look of having a bunch of little like white or light colored like balls in your hair. This is like my favorite part. This is like mesmerizing. I wish I had someone to do this with my hair every single day. Oh, I love scalp massages. What's up, tribe? Welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me again. If you're new here, my name is Mariah and I have officially been locked for almost a year. It's been 11 months and some change. I think I am 11 and a half months. So I think I'm 2 weeks from being locked for a full year. So I'm coming back for the much requested update. This video is going to be broken down into 5 parts, which are going to include 1, the lock FAQ, products I use, the routine I use, what I use when I first got my locks done versus what I use now, and tips for any of you who are considering or newly locked. Okay, so to begin, a little FAQ. As I've just mentioned, I have been locked for 11 and a half months. I have 291 locks. My locks are 1/2 inch parting, and the type of locks I have are micro locks, which are similar to sister locks, but they are not sister locks. So sister locks can be micro locks, but all micro locks cannot be sister locks. And the difference is really in the technique used to install. It's the grid pattern, along with you going to a loctician who has the proper sister lock training. So I get questions about that all the time. People compliment me, they're like, I love your sister locks. They're not sister locks, they're micro locks, which are just really small locks. But I feel like even these are not nearly as small as most of the sister locks that I typically see. So I started my locks with a professional loctician. The starting price around it depends on your hair density, your hair length, the method you want to start your locks in, as well as whether that's 2-strand twists, interlocking, palm rolling. Mine are interlocking, so my locks are done using the interlocking method, which basically there's a lot of differences, but the main difference is that when I'm getting retightenings done, my locks are never going to unravel. And all of this stuff is very much preferential. None of it looks better, in my opinion. Like, no types of locks look better per se than others. It's really about the look you're going for yourself, as well as how long you want your locks to take to actually lock. The cost of starting my locks was $930. The $30 was for the consultation and the $900 was for the installation. I do have a video about that. I'll kind of highlight that here, but the installation did take 3 days and it was a super efficient, super smooth process. For those of you asking where I got my locks done, so I got them done at My Does My Hair. That is the name of the shop that I go to. It is in Pemberton, New Jersey. And I'll definitely link those details down in the description. But the shop is nice. Like, it's very quiet, tranquil, intimate type of setting. There's only a few stylists that are usually there while I'm there. A lot of times it's just me and my loctician there. Okay, another frequently asked question is, how hard are they to care for, keep up with, or take care of? So I feel like these are really get up and go locks. It does not take me much to care for these. I mean, I don't do a whole lot to them. It doesn't require a whole lot of manipulation. If anything, you want the polar opposite. You don't want to be using a lot of products. You don't want to be constantly touching your hair, which I do tend to do that, but you don't want to be constantly touching your hair and like raking through your hair. I feel like locks are a very low maintenance type of hairstyle. So this is probably the best hairstyle that I have ever in my life had, because it's been so easy and so stress-free. Moving on to products that I use. All of these will be linked down in the description below. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I keep it very simple. For one, to maintenance my scalp as well as my hair, I use this Biolage Matrix shampoo. This one is the normalizing clean reset one. I also recently picked up one that is more specifically geared towards dandruff. I know fall and winter time is coming, and what I've been told by my loctician is that I actually don't get a lot of dandruff, and what it probably is like just dryness and oil. And I know there's like differences between actual dandruff and just like flakes from like dryness or oil buildup, but I went ahead and picked those up. But that is the shampoo that I use. I use a very small amount of it because it lathers very quickly, as you can see in my washing my Microlocs video. The next thing I use is oil. I'm not even going to show you what it says on this bottle because that's not the oil that's in here. There is some coconut oil and Jamaican black castor oil in here. That's just a mixture. And then I also have a small bottle that my loctician gave me any of her brand's oil. I also use this Thayer's Witch Hazel. I usually use the one, this one's a coconut water one. I usually use the one that is the rose water, but I ran out of it. I only use this though for my scalp. So what you'll do is like take a cotton ball, put some of this on the cotton ball, and I'll dab it onto my scalp. If I have areas of my scalp that are really itchy and I'm not finding any relief, and it's not from like having a lack of oil, but it's just pure uncontrollable itchiness, Witch Hazel does wonders for that. So I have used it quite a few times. And lastly, I use this Heritage Store rose water and glycerin spray, and then just regular water. Sometimes I'll like kind of dilute this a little bit. I usually just put it in one of the 360 mister bottles. I need to get a smaller one because this is way too big, but this is pretty much used like once a day or every other day. And then water is put on my hair typically every day. But as you can see, altogether it's 4 products. That is all I use on my hair. The general rule of thumb with locks is that less is more. Okay, so the routine for my Microlocs is, since getting my Microlocs installed, I have gone to my loctician every 6 weeks. I think once or twice we might have gone about 7 weeks, but typically it's every 6 weeks for a retie. And as you can see, this last time I actually brought you guys along with me so you can see kind of generally what that process looks like. And yes, it's sped up, but it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours max to retie 291 locks every 6 weeks. And generally the day or two before I go for a retie, I will go ahead and wash my scalp and wash my hair. And I typically will not apply any oil to my hair after I wash it when I'm going for a retie, because that just makes slippage more prevalent. It makes it more difficult for my loctician to actually retie my hair. Okay, daily routine. I'm gonna do my daily routine on camera for you guys right now because it's later in the day, but I didn't do it today because I knew I was gonna film this video. But as you can see, my hair has oil on it, but it's kind of dry because I haven't done anything to it since yesterday, and my hair just absorbs a lot of everything along with my pillowcase. I'll see if this is actually gonna wind up being enough to do this. So typically I'll start out by spraying my hair with water if it didn't already get misted in the shower, and then I will go ahead and apply the rose water and glycerin. And after I spray it, I typically just run it through my locks to try to get like even distribution, because generally speaking I want all of this moisture to be pretty equally set throughout my hair. I may also give my hair a little bit of a squeeze from time to time just to make sure that the water or rose water is just not running off my hair and actually getting into each lock. And as I do this, you're gonna see a little bit of difference in the volume and the overall look of how my locks generally look if I don't do anything to my hair for a day versus doing it every single day. Technically this product is a facial mist, so I don't really worry about it coming into contact with like my skin or anything like that because it hasn't caused any problems or issues. It works great for my hair, and I have very dry hair. My hair tends to be dry, my scalp tends to be dry, so this has helped quite a bit. So you can already kind of see the volume difference in my hair as I'm doing this. It's not wet, it's just kind of damp at this point, but I'm still going through it to get any access from certain locks and work it into the ones that are a little bit more on the dry side. Okay, and the next step in my daily routine is just really, this is an as needed step. This is probably more like every other day or every few days, just depending on how my scalp and my hair feel. I will go ahead and apply the oil. So I'll go through pretty much each section and just apply a little small amount of oil. Don't need a whole lot because the oil is going to of course heat on my scalp and then it's going to start running in different directions. So I try not to do too much. That way like my neck isn't covered in oil and my bedspreads and chairs are not covered in oil. The area that I'll apply the oil the most will be at the very top of my head, with the knowledge that it's going to run down and hit other areas anyway as far as my scalp is concerned. And then next I'll go ahead and give my scalp a little bit massage and work all that oil in. This is like my favorite part. This is like mesmerizing. I wish I had someone to do this with my hair every single day. Oh, I love scalp massages. Lastly, I will just take a little bit of this oil, apply it to my fingertips, and then rub it between my hands, and take that and rub it in the very back of my scalp, and then start pulling it out to my ends. That way my actual locks are getting some of that oil too. And you just pretty much top it off with more oils. What I require may be very different than what the next person requires. Some people require more oil, some people require less. And that's pretty much it. It's very similar to like a wash and go type of on a refresh day where you just kind of spray some water. There's always some product in your hair. You might add a little bit of oil and then you keep it pushing and let it pretty much air dry. It is super simple. And as you can see, my hair looks a little bit more maintained than it did at the start of this video. But yeah, I usually just scrunch it like so to give myself some extra volume. I like to have as much volume as possible. That might not be everyone's preference, but it certainly is mine. And there you go. And as you can see, my hands have oil on them, but they're not like super duper greasy or anything like that. And that's what I mean. Like your hands shouldn't be just so greasy by the time that you're done. If they are, then you've used way too much oil. So that's pretty much my daily routine. I will shampoo my hair about once every 3 weeks or so. It just really depends. It's the summertime right now, so if I'm sweating a lot or if we go to the beach or I get in a pool, obviously I go ahead and shampoo my hair. But if I'm not really doing those things, then I can go longer stretches without actually needing to shampoo my hair. But for me, it's usually anywhere from every 3 to 6 weeks-ish. On to what I've used in the beginning versus what I currently use. In the beginning, you know, you try to research all the things, you do things a certain way, and you live and you learn. So in the beginning, I used to use bonnets. I got a pack that has, I think, 4 bonnets in it, and I used to use these bonnets. They have a band, like a headband on the very front. That way the bonnet doesn't slip off in the middle of the night. And in the beginning, when I first got my locks done, these were working pretty good for me. I was doing great, but as my locks matured, especially in the last, I would say about 5 months, the band actually started to cause my roots in the back to marry. So my locks were starting to merge to where there wasn't a whole lot of separation in my parts. And it was becoming more difficult for my loctician to separate them because it was almost like it was matting together. Part of that is because I sweat a lot at night, especially and in my sleep. Couldn't really control the fact that I was sweating, because that's another thing. You're not supposed to go to sleep with wet locks or wet roots or anything like that, but it's night sweats. I couldn't really control that factor of it, but this was the culprit essentially in rubbing my roots back and forth, especially in the back, like right along those back 2 rows is where it really was. It didn't really affect the front, but in the back 2 rows, it was causing my locks to marry. So I switched from using a bonnet just to using satin pillowcases, which these are the ones that I got. They've been working really, really well. They're easy to just throw in the washer. They stay on my pillows no matter how much adjusting I do throughout the night. But now I just don't even bother with the bonnet and just use the pillowcase. I take that back. The only time I will use a bonnet is if we are traveling. I usually don't take a pillowcase with me. If we're traveling or gonna be staying at a hotel or I'm gonna be sleeping over someone else's house, I will suck it up for the night or for the couple of nights and use the bonnet. It's not gonna have a negative impact being used for a couple of days. It's just using this every night for months on end in between reties. Not such a hot look. Another thing I switched from doing was using regular towels to microfiber towels. So I actually got these that are just for essentially drying your hair. They're like not the Turby twist, but once again, Amazon. I will put the link in the description, but they came, I think, like 3 or 5 in a pack. But not only is them being microfiber important, the fact that they come in black is also important. My hair is a very deep, dark brown black color. I think it's like technically brown, but it appears to be black. So if you use anything that is lighter than what your hair color is, it's gonna show. If any of the fibers come off of it, you're gonna have that like lint look, because if I was to be using a white one of these, every time a fiber comes out of this, potentially it would show up in my locks. And that's also where a lot of people get lint. You don't want that. For one, the look of having a bunch of little like white or light colored like balls in your hair. And for 2, those things hold on to products and can cause a lot of buildup and can cause issues within your locks. So for me, getting these that are specifically for my hair, they're microfiber and they're black, game changer. Another thing I did in the beginning was strictly use the blow dryer and used it till my hair was like bone dry. This is the blow dryer that I use. It's the Dyson blow dryer. Amazing blow dryer, by the way. No regrets on my purchase of it. I do feel like it's better suited for the fall winter months versus the spring summer months. I mean, maybe spring too. So maybe the fall winter spring months, it's better to use the blow dryer. In the summertime, it's so freaking hot out, and I'm then going and spraying my hair every day with water anyway, that when I would do my shampoos in the wintertime, I would go ahead and use the blow dryer. But what I found this summer is that I could pretty much shampoo my hair, wrap it in one of these towels, get dressed, do whatever else I needed to do, take my hair down, and if I was hanging out outside for most of the day, I would essentially just treat my hair as if I was doing my daily routine and let it air dry. This will not work for everyone, and this will not work for everyone's locks, but it's been so hot here that my hair would typically be dry in about roughly maybe an hour. I feel like going the blow drying route in the summertime is just extra or more effort, or not really a different result, if that makes sense. And lastly, my biggest probably fumble in the beginning was not spraying down my hair with water like daily, whether it was out of like laziness or being concerned that I was going to like do something to my locks. I wasn't spraying down my hair with water every single day, and now I do it darn near religiously every single day. This hair is getting sprayed down with water. I kind of want to get a mister just because I feel like that might be a little bit easier as well. But in the beginning, I didn't spray my hair down every day. Now I do it every day, if not sometimes multiple times a day, depending on if I don't like how my hair is styled. Last but not least, I have some tips for you guys. My first tip is to take progress pics and videos. My loctician told me this in the beginning, and I do have some, you know, befores and not really afters, because after is now, but I have some pictures from when I first got my locks done, and I think maybe up to a few months after that. But then I just stopped taking progress pics because I don't know, for me, I really wasn't concerned about, like, I guess the different stages that my hair was really gonna go through. And I liked my locks at each stage. I never felt like I had, like, I know some people go through an ugly phase or ugly stage. I don't feel like I even had an ugly stage. And I feel like a lot of people, it's about self-perception, because I don't think a lot of people go through necessarily an ugly stage. But in any event, I didn't take that many pics or videos, and now I wish I had, just to be able to put them all together to see how my hair is progressed, even in length, how much it's progressed. But yeah, if you like to see general progress and how your hair develops over the years, and even just the difference in how your hair looks when using certain products, I recommend taking pics and videos. Okay, my second tip. This is for all of you that like to fiddle with your hair, get anxious and do things to your hair, or hate seeing certain things. Specifically, like those of you who have had single strand knots will completely understand the feeling. But there are certain locks that have these very small balls on the end of them. I'm trying to see. I only have a few. It's kind of hard to find them. Okay, I found not one, but two. So these guys right here. You see how I have these little balls at the end of my locks? Okay, so you see these little balls, and the automatic response, at least for me, is when you see this little tiny ball of hair that is attached to one of your locks and it's like farther from the thicker part of your locks, my natural instinct is to snatch it. I want to snatch it each time that I see it, or if I feel it like in the shower, my natural instinct is to pull it off or cut it off. Most of the time it's pulling it off. Let's be realistic here. There's not nearly the amount of satisfaction in cutting it off. But those little balls are actually, which I didn't find out till way later on, is your ends trying to seal. So because the way I got my locks installed, especially, it's my ends trying to seal. As you can see, I have like curlier ends to my locks, which I'm totally fine with. I like the look of them, but it's the ends of my locks trying to seal, and those little balls are not the ultimate enemy like my intrusive thoughts tell me they are. So that is my tip for you. Do not cut or tear off those little balls unless it's like hanging on by like a single strand of hair, or like an extremely thin amount of hair in comparison or ratio wise to the thickness of your lock. Don't mess with the little balls. That's lesson of the day. Do not mess with the little balls. Another tip that I have for you guys is get used to the defiance. I'm sure at the beginning of this video, I'll roll it back for you guys, but at the beginning of this video, you saw that strand of hair or that lock that continuously just sticks up like an alfalfa. I'm sure you've seen it across numerous videos of mine actually. But don't get frustrated with them, and embrace the defiance. It won't always be defiant, and usually a little bit of water and a little bit of oil, as you've seen, it fixes it. So get used to the defiance of your locks and embrace the defiance of them. Let go of that need to like control how every single lock lays, because even when you get reties and retwists done, they might not always lay in the direction of your preference, especially when you have, you know, locks that are shorter, like the ones that I have that are shorter in the front that started out like literally fetal locks. But get used to the defiance, like learn to live with it, and like I said, embrace it. It's not gonna last forever, and there are ways to like fix it without getting like super frustrated with it. And my final and most important tip for you guys is don't compare your locks to anyone else's. Embrace your own locks as they are and look forward to what they will become. Comparing your locks to other people's locks who, you know, you've had lock crushes on will just breed you being like unhappy or unsatisfied with your own locks. I feel like that's something that like in the beginning before I got locks, I was definitely told on multiple occasions, like you can look for lock inspiration of how you want, you know, your locks or how you envision your locks maybe potentially being, but do not get overly attached to those images of how other people's locks look, because the reality of it is their hair type might be different, their hair texture might be different, their porosity might be different. So your locks are never going to look the exact same way that theirs do, and you need to be prepared for the fact that your locks might not look anything like theirs do. Plus, comparison is like the biggest thief of true happiness. You can't be truly happy with something if you're constantly comparing what you have to the perception of what somebody else has. But yeah, guys, that is my lock update for you all. I hope you all like enjoyed it. I hope it was like informative for those of you who have certain questions or certain curiosities. If you have more questions, definitely let me know. I will answer as many as I'm able to. If you are thinking about or considering getting locks, hands down, do it. I feel like anyone who can pull the trigger on doing it, you don't regret doing it. I certainly have zero regrets about getting locks. The only regret I have surrounding locks is not getting them sooner. Like I truly wish I would have done it before shaving my head. But anyways, we're here now and the lock journey will continue on. So I hope you all are having a wonderful and amazing week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.